All right. The troubles in Washington state are just getting started. Today might be a little bit of a depressing podcast. So, why don't you tell us what the heck is going on in this beautiful evergreen state of ours?
I don't know if it's depressing, but this is a reality of what's happening. The storm clouds are rolling in. If we don't do something about it, it will become depressing. So, what if I told you that the most productive and innovative and wealthy state in America, the Evergreen State, was also in undeniable decline like today? And I'm talking about where we live here in good old Washington State. And before you start typing in the stupid comments, but what about Amazon and what about Microsoft and blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about a total collapse here. Okay. I'm talking about this identity crisis that we're starting to go through. The data says Washington is richer, yet businesses are fleeing, people are moving out, crime is spiking, and it's one of those massive contradictions that's happening. So right now we have the third highest GDP per capita in the United States. But why are people leaving? We've got this massive tension between prosperity and affordability. The rich getting richer. And as always, we want to kind of cut through the hype. We want to just show the data, explain what we're seeing. But Washington State, it isn't just failing. It's starting to feel like part of the bad parts of downtown Seattle. So we gotta get this moving in the right direction, but we got to understand where we're at.
It stinks, you mean?
It stinks. It's dirty. And
Didn't you go to Din Tai Fung yesterday? Which
Yes.
one?
South Center.
So, was it kind of stinky? Or
No, it was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting about hearing this is there's almost two parts of Washington. There's the cities, and then there's everywhere else.
Yes.
And what's unfortunate is I feel the cities, I mean, I'm kind of poking fun at it, but that is a reality. Downtowns just really aren't an ideal place like they used to be.
Bingo.
I mean, Nike moved out.
All these businesses are moving out.
And the homelessness, there's no support there to kind of clean it up and get those people help. And then what's interesting, though, is you said that GDP's up and you mentioned Amazon. Well, there's a lot of money coming into these cities, driving up real estate prices. And is it almost always the case when you have such spike in, home values in a center like that, and that includes Bellevue, Tacoma, maybe even Bellingham, that affects all the rural areas too?
In home prices?
Yes.
So think of it like this. Your major metros are your epicenter of money. And when they make a wave, the wave, it's like throwing a rock into the pond, it moves out. Now, the wave, as it moves out, diminishes, but it still, works. So as Seattle and Bellevue have, rapidly appreciated in pricing, so have the surrounding rings. But the further you go away, the less
Got it.
you're seeing that.
The reason I bring it up is because the way to change things in a state is through policy and through electing,
Yes.
new leaders. But I feel that second part of Washington, outside of the cities, can't do that because we've always had the same leaders doing the same thing, and it's making it worse. Even I'm not like following him, but our current governor, I heard he just doesn't have really good ratings, I guess.
Oh, Ferguson's ratings are just plummeting because he's not delivering on some of the promises that he said was coming. So we're kind of in this like economic paradox. We got a contradiction that is basically, like we just said, we're the third highest GDP. And that means on a per person basis, Washington State, we are a freaking economic powerhouse. And it was actually in 2024, $702 billion, 3.7% above the year before. But you'd think that's because we are a business-friendly environment. And this is where this paradox really starts to hit you. So CNBC just released some business rankings. Washington in 2022 was voted number 2 for the best state for business in the United States. And in 2025, we just fell to 14. This is like You are the absolute pro. You are the LeBron James NBA superstar. And now you're no longer even playing in the NBA. You went back to college. Okay. No one even knows you exist anymore. And why is that? It's this trifecta of high costs, elevated wages, expensive office spaces, anti-business in climate, and just this constant push and attack that businesses are feeling. So the problem is literally driving people and companies away from Washington State. In turn, what we're seeing is we're then seeing this affordability crisis. So the state's housing market, in one sense, is a massive success because it's helped people create an unbelievable amount of wealth. The statewide median home price was $626,000, 9.3% up from the previous year. But because rates are so high, the middle income family in Washington State only has 63.1% of the income. In other words, the average person in Washington State can't afford to buy a home here. But it gets worse. First-time home buyers, they have just 45%. So the first-time home buyer needs to more than double their income to be able to afford the average home in Washington State. And this isn't even talking about Seattle. So for our listeners, our subscribers, some of you totally know, we live in the north end of the Seattle metro. And Seattle is the heart of where we're at, and the King County is the county where Seattle is. The median price last month was $850K. The average price last month was $1.1 million. And so you think these numbers are bad, just go to King County and they get even worse. And where we're recording this today, we're in Snohomish County, right north of that. And guess what? Our median price is $750, and our average price is almost $900. And I was like, well, there's got to be a bright spot here. Maybe the builders are building more. Hey, listeners, subscribers, people that comment, I'm a builder. I know they're not building more. So I went and pulled the number of building permits. I was like, building permits, I think they're down. Building permits were down 6.4%. That means we're also headed for a future supply crunch that's going to further push up home prices. So when people who build homes stop building and building permits go down, the affordability doesn't recover. And
That sounds depressing to me.
it's not depressing because I'm in love with our state. I love where we live.
Yeah, you're just like so optimistic.
Yes.
The reason I bring it up is everyone after the 2008 crash saw home prices gradually rise from that rock bottom that we hit and assumed that we would have another correction, not necessarily even a crash. I think people just know like there's highs and there's lows.
Yep.
We just really never had that. And the COVID one was really just so like a blip.
Yeah.
And so if you're saying inventory is going to get worse because
Yes.
people aren't building, and affordability is going to actually get exacerbated by not only the fact that there's inflation and everything costs a lot, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. It just means more prices. It almost means like, hey, if you're going to buy, you better buy it right now.
Bingo. And as always, we'll get to like the conclusions or what you should be doing at the end. But what we're looking at is we essentially have this kind of domestic migration problem that this is creating. So people can't afford to live where they work. So people have to commute into Seattle. They have to commute into Bellevue, which is causing the secondary rings and the tertiary rings to massively explode in prices. But domestic migration has turned negative in Washington State. And it's also turned negative inside of cities like Seattle itself. And people are packing their bags and they're moving to the Carolinas, to Tennessee, to Texas, to Arizona. And this exodus is being masked by international migrants. So the state's population is growing, but our mix or our composition is fundamentally changing. So let's go through some real numbers. Net migration slowed, and it was 97,000 in 2020, and the estimates are 61,000 in 2025. But I need you to understand that that net migration is actually negative because Washingtonians moved to other areas, and we had international migrants come in to actually boost it positive. And during the similar time period, this is driver's license data, you saw the number of international migrants jump from 15.3% to 23%. And then conversely, and unfortunately, now these aren't linked together. I'm just using these stats, so don't hit me in the comments for that one. Property crime is 50% above the national average, and homelessness is up 25%. This is this affordability problem. And so it's not just crime that's happening in the streets. This is happening in the spreadsheets, in the data. We've got theft, we have homelessness, and we have Washingtonians moving to other places, which is a real drain on our local population infrastructure.
I think you're allowed to talk about property crime since,
Okay, so we're going to go down a rabbit hole here for 2 seconds. Yes, property crime is massively up. And we had a property in Everett, and we were building it. And an arsonist lit it on fire and burned it to the ground, and then it torched the property in front of it that we owned, the property next to it that we owned, the neighbor's property, and the other neighbor's fence burned down. Then we had to go through and fight with everyone, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fixing the problem, fight with the insurance companies, and we're basically going to lose a bunch of money. In the last 3 weeks, to that same properties, which are now fully fixed, fully rebuilt, we've had someone kick in the door trying to break in. We had someone cut the hoses. They were too lazy to unscrew the sprinklers that are on the brand new lawns. So they cut the hoses with a knife so they could walk off with the sprinklers. We had someone try to break off part of one of the fences. We're like, what is going on? So Tony calls me and he goes, lower the price, sell them now, sell them now. And I was like, brother, I love you and I appreciate you. This is the week before Labor Day. That's when we're recording this. I was like, there's no one looking at real estate right now. I was like, we will lower the prices after Labor Day to get them sold. He's like, I'm tired of dealing with this. He's like, this is out of control. I said, I hear you. Yeah, so it's just bad right now.
So the moral of the story is don't build in Everett. Hey, I love Everett. Like when I go there for lunch or farmer's market, looks like you guys got to get your security going.
There are places in Everett I won't build in again. And there are places in Everett that I love. And what I hope that Everett continues to do, and guys, you can hear this. I'm an optimist. I hope that Everett continues to improve because Everett is massively improved and I believe they're getting better. We went down to the waterfront this weekend, walked around on the waterfront. All that stuff's new down there. It's just beautiful, just beautiful. All right, so if this housing crisis and the property crime and the homelessness wasn't enough, bless you, Governor Ferguson, for signing this freaking thing. And bless you, our idiot politicians, because we just saw the largest tax increase in Washington State's history of $9.4 billion over 4 years. Things like advanced computing surcharges. It went up literally 700%, 1.22% to 7.5%. We saw a massive increase in gas taxes. We saw the estate tax jump to 35%. We saw this weird jacked up capital gains. We've got the weird billionaire, millionaire taxes. B&O added new classifications and a 0.5% charge on things. We created new sales taxes on service. So the economists are estimating the average household in Washington State will pay $2,000 more a year just to deal with these specific taxes. Business groups are calling this a self-inflicted wound in Washington state. And this isn't just about revenue. This is a signal that Washington is unwilling to work on balancing their budget, and their policy is shifting towards an anti-business climate. And this is why I'm speaking out against it, and why I want you to hear. I want you to be paying attention. Once again, I'm in love with the state, but we got to start changing and bringing it back. We talked about the property crime already, but I want to bring us back to Amazon. Amazon and kind of the two Washingtons. So the state is fracturing into the divide. And I'll give you a hint. It's Eastern and the Seattle Metro. Amazon is a microcosm of essentially this entire problem. The company is relocating from longtime downtown Seattle. For those of you that don't know, Amazon was the largest leaseholder of office space by a massive margin of anyone in downtown Seattle. And then Seattle started attacking Amazon and brought out a head tax and all of these other taxes and problems. And so they started accelerating their move over to Bellevue, which is the other kind of metro just to the east of it. And they cited better safety, lower taxes, and a more appealing business environment. So this company isn't leaving the state yet or today, even though Jeff said, I'm out, and he moved to Florida. Why'd he move to Florida? The billionaire tax. The company is abandoning one part of the state for the other, and this is the example of really what's happening. We're breaking into this two Washingtons where we have got a high cost, high taxed urban pressure cooker in the Puget Sound region, aka the Seattle Metro, where the decline narrative is actually, unfortunately, becoming a reality. As we were driving into Seattle, of course, we hit massive traffic. You're going in at rush hour. One of my kids was like, and kids don't pay attention to anything. They go, man, the graffiti's gotten bad down here. And it really has. It's just everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, it's bad when my teenager notices the decline of what's happening. Like, if that's what you're seeing on a surface level, what's hiding below the surface? And then there's the rest of the state, which is showing this story of resilience. And there's also two things that are happening too. There's a dichotomy between the haves and the have-nots. And the haves' income and portfolios and asset bases are growing. And the have-nots, unfortunately, are scooting down. We've got to get this affordability crisis under control. And so the rest of the state, we're seeing business applications in 2025 grow at an 88.6% rate. But this growth is happening in Eastern Washington, which is emerging as the new hub for clean technology, for manufacturing, cheap data, cheaper housing, more responsible policies that aren't as, liberal leaning, that aren't leading to some of these other problems. And so just kind of a quick little recap. CNBC dropped our rankings from 2 to 14. Amazon's headquarters is moving. Businesses are relocating to Eastern Washington. People are moving out of the state for other states. So our net migration is down, except for international migrants. But our GDP is still growing. But how long can this continue? So I'm trying to just tell you there's some warning bells. So the state is losing businesses in Seattle, but we're getting startups in other parts of the country, and I love it. So we're real estate guys. All right, let's talk about a little bit of real estate. Let's give you the real estate breakdown. This affordability crisis that we've been seeing is going to continue, and no one is coming to save us. During the great financial crisis, we lost a ton of banks and we lost a ton of builders. And all that inventory we didn't build is not being built. And we already said that permits are down almost 5%. And all the big builders and developers I know, they're trying to push through product right now and projects. But what's happening is everyone's being delayed because the cities are not being helpful, the counties aren't being helpful, and the permitting timelines and the development timelines are atrocious. So the state then passed the ADU bill and the middle housing bill. But what are we actually receiving? We're receiving massive pushback against these where they're trying to prevent them and trying to slow them down. And there may or may not be one local municipality who basically told me I couldn't do it and I needed to use a unit lot subdivision. Now I have to go back and fight with them, and I might even have to get an attorney to shove it down their throat. And it's pissing me off when at the state level they were trying to fix this. Sellers, one thing to know, the market is pretty good right now, but it's going to be hotter in the spring. I got to be really blunt with you. The fact that Papa Powell was a dove at Jackson Hole and the odds of the rate cut next month in September are still there. Rate cuts are coming, and as debt gets cheaper, there's more buyers that will help. And we're seeing good activity. So we've seen a pickup in activity. Buyers, understand there are always seasons, and that right now we're in a deal week, and it's like the last 2 weeks of August. And the reason it's a deal week is it's all the kids are going back to school. Everyone's going for their last vacation. Agents are lazy and they're not working because they're on vacation too. So what are we doing? We're slaying deals left and right. I called on a development project that should have been 300 grand more, and he's got no offers. And it's been on the market for literally 10 days. I told him I'll send him an offer tomorrow. Picked up the phone, called a bunch of homies and said, hey, who wants to throw in on this one? And investors, I want you to be thinking about cap rates and rents. As interest rates trend down, cap rates will follow later, even though the multifamily market is beat up right now and part of office is beat up. Capitalize on the downswing in cap rates because it's going to give you an upswing in forced appreciation. And because these large development projects, these large multifamily ones, take forever, they're on a 3-year cycle. We're running out of the large apartment buildings, and we know rents are going to go up in 2026. That's your future opportunity. For my builders, my developers, my flippers, my ADU guys, boys and girls, go hard. Go hard in the paint. It's time to make money. Everyone who's got projects making money right now. One of my friends just sold a unfinished dadu lot for 140 grand in Tacoma. I didn't think you could sell a dadu lot that's not finished in Tacoma for 140 grand. When he called and asked me how much it was worth, I was like, bro, I think you'll be lucky to get like 75, 80, 90. And he calls back, he's like, I got 140. And I was like, you are a master. But it's also showing how inventory on the builder side is non-existent, and that's creating that opportunity. So what's our final verdict? In closing, is Washington in decline? Yes. And no. So not in the traditional sense of an economic failure, but it's in decline because we're pulling the wind out of the sails with our actions. And I love the state. I have no intention of moving, but I got to speak out about the problems that we're seeing. And our state is in this profound strategic reorientation, but it's evolving from this low-cost, high-growth model into a mature, high-cost one, and I don't like that. And I don't think you should allow this to happen either. And the challenges that we're facing here is affordability, and it's public safety, and they're real, and they're structural. And we also have, though, on the other side of that coin, a foundation in, there's a lot of capital. There's a lot of brilliant people here. We've got deep water ports. We have massive innovation, a skilled workforce, high valued industry. So the future of Washington depends on our ability to manage our precious resources, which are our people and our businesses. And so this isn't a simple story of decline. It's one about crossroads. And if you guys found this analysis valuable, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep breaking down the complex stories in money, in business, in real estate, in our local backyard. And don't pay attention to what the mainstream media is selling you. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or investor, tell me what you think in the comments. Are these challenges real? What did we miss? What did we get right?